Who's this?
This
Oh.
is a video. There you
Here.
go.
Jack McLean.
Jack McLean. I didn't like him because he slapped me, but everybody else had other reasons for not liking him. He was not well liked. He was a Baptist preacher. And in study hall, we all figured out what he was doing. He would get he'd get a book out that he's reading, some algebra or whatever it was. What he's really reading, he had like a Playboy or a girly magazine
Oh no.
behind this. We figured that out. So once we figured it out, everybody would go up and ask him a question. Yes, he had answered. But we were all asked, I'll go up and ask him questions. But Jimmy Steele got him back. He did it better than anybody. He got him, well, I remember this is one of the times that I wanted to laugh so very bad. And I knew he was so mad that he would have killed anybody that laughed. He lectured through the whole class and had a big old oak dish bottom chair. He was sitting behind the desk. He was sitting up on the edge of it, lectured the whole time. And he got up and he was explaining something. Just at the end of the class, he started to sit back down. When he sat back down, he jumped up and turned around and looked at his chair. I didn't know what was going on. Jimmy knew what was going on, and one other guy that was with Jimmy when it happened. But he turned around and looked, and he said, "Someone has put water in my chair." And he looked, and he said, "No, someone has urinated in my seat." And he was so mad. And he turned around and kicked it. This is a heavy chair. He kicked that chair, and it hit the wall. Pee went everywhere. And it hit the wall, probably 4 or 5 foot up on the wall,
Oh,
and came down. And I remember saying, "Some of you are laughing up your sleeve." And I thought, "Oh, please don't let me laugh." But it was one of the funniest things to see old Jack upset he'd sat down in Jimmy Steele's pee, and I didn't.
You sat in it?
Huh?
You sat in it?
That's when he jumped back up.
You
He
felt
noticed, yeah, he felt
So how was Jimmy able to get up there and do that?
he did it the afternoon before.
Oh, so this is first of the day. Okay, I thought he
Yeah.
sneaked up there and.
No,
Okay.
he did it after school. After before he got
So
in
it
the
sat
room.
there all night. And
He Jack McLean
Ugh.
chair.
that's a great way to start your day.
Smelled it, like sitting there, like it smells like urine.
It's a great way to start the day.
You know, when he slapped me, left those bruises for a week. I was in 8th grade, and it took me, in my own little way, I got back at him. But it took me until the next year when I was a freshman. I was in study hall. He was teaching a biology class to the sophomores, and he had a test he was giving, and he needed a bird dissected and a frog dissected drawing. You know, it's mimeograph paper, and they'd run this stuff off. And all these little, so, you know, the test was them labeling, you know, that. And he knew I could draw. So during study hall, Jack came over and said, "You know, I know you can draw and everything. I'd like, you know, would you draw? Tell me what I wanted." And I said, "Well, I got an algebra assignment. If you'll do my algebra assignment, I'll draw your pictures." And he said, "Deal." So he got my algebra assignment during study hall for me, and I drew his pictures. And then I went to the sophomore class and said, "You got a test tomorrow, and let me tell you what's on it." So in my own little way,
Wow.
I got back to, but we had,
You didn't get back at him, you cheated your whole class.
Out of an education.
Out of an education.
you know, we had,
I bet you right now they ain't label a frog.
in the 5th grade was Mary Brand that got me a hand.
Uh-huh.
4th grade was Miss Richardson that pulled my hair out twice, 2 different times. Once we was doing a fire drill. Had these big desk. Dwayne Cooper, bless his heart, he was one of the smarter ones with books in class, but it was a fire drill. Well, he didn't want his desk to be burned up, so he's the only one student that picked his desk up and carried it all outside to get in line and hold it his desk. But
It was a fire drill, though.
it was a drill,
You're an
yeah.
idiot.
But anyway, I did something in line that day, and she grabbed my hair and snatched a bunch of it out. But then that's when I tripped. When she was back, she was a big woman, and she was explaining a math problem on the board. Was backing down the aisle, and she didn't like people's feet in the aisle. That was one of the things that set her off anyway. So I thought, I've never seen anybody this big fall. So I tripped her, and when she hit the bottom, for a big woman, she could move. She was almost like she bounced. She came up, grabbed me by my hair, lifted me up, and shook me until I exfoliated like an apple dropping out of a tree. Kind of threw the hair back, and she was mad, really.
Oh, and you're in fourth grade?
Fourth grade.
Oh.
Then the fifth grade was Mary
That's
Brand.
Chase's age. Can you imagine that? Plus, you were
Fifth
apart.
grade was Mary Brand that got me every day in the hand, just almost every day. Now, my mama would ask how many times. She wouldn't ask if I died.
Yeah.
She said, how many times you get it today? Oh, 2. I did pretty good. Yeah, but if she went over 3, then you get a paddling, or you have to stay in. And me and Kenneth Harris went over 3 one day, so we had to stay in. And it was springtime. The kids were all out playing. It was a nice day, beautiful. They're out playing baseball or doing whatever they're doing. And we were sitting in there, but Kenneth brought the dice from his Monopoly set. So we shoved the table against the back wall, and we were rolling. It was just me and him in the room. So we was rolling this dice.
I
And
didn't even
wasn't-
know what gambling was.
no, we were just looking at high numbers and stuff like that. But I mean, that was the time I realized, like Treva, if you went to Farmersville, they wouldn't let her go in the service station because they had a pool table. So it's that kind of thing. Well, we had dice.
Oh, that's even worse. than
Yes,
fourth grade.
worse. So we were rolling the stuff, and the door opened. This Mary Brand, and she came in and she looked at us. We were like, and she kind of frowned and she closed the door and left. So we kept rolling. And what she did, she went to the office and got the principal and brought him back. So the door opened as the principal, and we were sitting there and said, boys, won't you come to the office? Oh man, we are in big trouble now. He gave us a big lecture about gambling and how bad it was, gambling and all this stuff. And he had to be laughing when he said this. He said, now boys, I'm not going to put this on your permanent record. He said,
He said, I'm not gonna whip you.
I'm not going to whip you, but it goes on your permanent record. You may not ever be able to get a job.
And that same principal was there when I graduated and we were pretty much engaged. He should have told me that you might not have ever,
Might not
gotten
ever get a job. But anyway, I remember worrying about that going home. I was thinking, man, I've ruined my life in the 5th grade. I can't even get a job.
Unemployable.
I didn't tell
youth.
mom and daddy about it though. They'd have been upset at me playing with dice. But that and another one that didn't happen to me, but just I thought it was funny. We had a teacher that came down from up north, and he never fit in. Brinkley was his name, and he
Wow, teachers.
just never. He was just odd and didn't fit in, didn't understand Southern culture, and
They were there when I was in 5th grade, so you'd have been in the 8th grade.
okay, well, he was there. We were in the 7th grade when I remember this thing. Must have been there a couple of years, but he was getting ready to start class. This is one of the funniest things to me. I still think about it. He was getting ready to start teaching. Well, he'd started teaching, started lecturing, and Dale Tackett was standing up, paying no attention, just standing up, leaning up, looking out the window. Just staring out the window. And so he just kept lecturing. Dale wasn't paying any attention, walked around Dale, picked Dale's book, I don't remember if it's history or whatever it was, picked his book up, and bam, he hit Dale on the back of the head and said, "Sit down," and threw his book down his desk, and he kept lecturing. Well, he ended that, at the end of class, he ended a little bit early. And he said, okay, and he went up in front of the desk, he kind of pulled himself up on his desk, and he was sitting there at the desk, he said, "We got a little time, y'all can do whatever you want to do for the rest of the period." Well, Dale apparently had been thinking about what he wanted to do. So Dale, I couldn't believe he did this. Dale took his book, Brinkley was kind of looking at him, he walked right up in front of Brinkley and went, boom, hit him out of his head. And man, I mean, hit him hard. And he came up just as the bell rung. He came up and he was yelling at us, and he was trying to grab kids. He was trying to throw kids out of the room. We were trying to it's like a bunch of rats. He was trying to get off a sinking ship. We were trying to get out any door we could because he was trying to get us and, toss us out. But that was one of the funniest things. Old Dale he'd been thinking about it apparently. Do whatever you want to do. Well, I know what I want to do.
Is he the guy from up north? Is that?
The teacher was from up north, yeah. The guy that didn't fit in. And hit Dale, that's what he did. He hit Dale on the head with a
Dale
book.
retired as a postman and worked with
Dale was looking out the window, not paying attention when he first started lecturing, and he was just walking around and grabbed Dale's book and boom, hit him on the head and said, "Sit down." So then,
So later, here we go.
Okay, tell about the bus culture. Tell about the winning the prize at the raffles or whatever, and you win a gun or something. Tell about the fights on the buses.
oh geez, which one?
And did it involve the bus driver?
There were a lot of fights on the buses. A lot of them was a Donahoe's rode the same school bus. So they're always fighting about something. Stevie had been about the 4th grade, Joseph about the 6th. And Stevie had an abscess tooth and the whole side of his head was swelled up like that. I mean, it was bad looking. And he and Joseph got in an argument, and they were yelling at each other, and Joseph came off, and he hit him right on that side. I mean, just hit him. And Stevie said, "That didn't hurt." He hit him again.
It's like
Yeah.
a gunshot.
And
probably.
tears were running out of Stevie's eyes. He wasn't crying, but tears were running out. I said, "That didn't hurt." And they were getting ready to really high up, and Janice, their sister, older sister, came in and made them quit, sit down. I mean, they fought. They fought with the sisters too. Kenny was talking about that Janice one time called him an SOB, and they got in a fight, and he said, and they fought, man, they hit each other. He said she played basketball that night and she had a black eye.
Oh my goodness.
But they were, the school bus, there's a lot of fights on the school bus. The Donahoe's fighting, and the bus driver fighting. Punishment was you had to walk home. They'd put you off the school bus. Well, you think about this. You're a country, out in the country boy. You get put off from home, you may be 8 miles from home. And your job when you get home is to milk a cow. And you're going to be in real trouble if you've gotten enough trouble that the bus driver put you off and it's after dark before you can get home. You're in trouble. And so,
As far as I'm concerned, you can.
what was his name? Harris.
Thank you.
Clyde Alderdice
You know, the
and
ice cream probably needs to set just a little
I'm
bit.
blocking on his first name, his country name, Harris. They had,
Very well.
no, one Kenneth, that's another story. Billy Mack Harris and Clyde Alderdice, that's 2 country names. But they were telling jokes on the bus, they were seniors. And Zach heard them. He threw the brakes on, said, putting you off the bus, you're walking home. And it was probably 8 miles, it's a long way home. And Billy Mack said, I ain't getting off the bus. He said, you getting off the bus. So Zach got up to throw him off the bus. And then one heck of a fight broke out. And they were hitting each other in the face. This is the bus driver and a senior in high school.
Hitting each other in the face.
Oh, I'd see him. Well, what happened?
Grown men, effectively.
Yeah. What was his name? Bobby. Blocking his last name. Anyway, he was a year older than me. He opened the back door of the bus, and kids were scrambling off and everything. But I stayed on because I wanted to watch the fight. Stevie Donahoe stayed on, and Billy Mack's sister stayed on. And so the three of us, and they had hit. I mean, Billy Mack had hit Zach, and you see the bop of his feet as he'd go back over a seat. They were hitting real hard, and then finally Billy Mack got him around in a headlock, and he was turning blue. I mean, he was choking, and his sister was begging and said, please, you're gonna kill him, Billy Mack, please turn him loose, you're gonna kill him, please. And Stevie was going, you got him now, you can kill him now.
Oh,
Billy Mack, you can kill him now, you got him.
oh my goodness.
Different, but he turned Zach loose, got off the bus and walked home. Next day, everybody on the bus had to go to the principal's office one at a time to tell the story, what we saw, what happened. You know,
Including you, which you had the front
yeah,
row seat.
I had a good seat.
Did
Yeah, it was.
he even get in trouble for it?
I don't know what happened to him, but he's the one. He and Zach McClure didn't like either one of them, so he didn't much care. The things they get away with, they got on the school buses in September one morning with sacks, paper sacks, and they got to the Donahoe levee, and they told Zach that they had a science experiment they were doing and needed to do, and he could pick them up there that afternoon. What school bus driver today would kids come up and say that? Used to let them off the bus, but Zach opened the door and let them off. What they had in the sacks was their shotguns they'd taken down and had them wrapped up in their squirrel season over.
All of that will not happen in today's world.
So they
Oh my goodness.
hunted squirrel all day, I guess, and they had everything wrapped up. And that afternoon we came up and they stayed in on the levee waiting for the bus. When they got on and rode home. So their parents didn't know they didn't go to school. They'd snuck the shotguns out.
See if you can hear about the ice cream to make them.
What age was that?
Wait.
What age were they?
They were probably juniors or seniors.
Okay, I don't.
They're pretty smart for being dumb.
Jace just put his root
They
beer.
probably weren't done.
Yeah, they had to go to the office one day because, what was he doing? Oh, Clyde had his hand like
Don't
that,
bother that just yet.
and Billy Mack had his pocket knife, and he was he's taking his pocket knife going,
Around someone else's hand?
yeah, and his buddy Clyde's hand.
Not his own hand.
Huh?
The way you play that game is around your own hand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
around someone else's
I was
hand.
doing it around,
Let's see.
and he missed and stuck it through, and so he was, and had blood going everywhere, and they'd get him off the bus and take him
Wait,
in.
what's
and-
the game?
You take the pocket knife.
You do not take your new pocket knife.
No, you don't take a
Yeah,
pocket knife and do
I've seen
that.
a kid do it with a thumbtack, and he's like, "Watch this," and he just did it on all of his fingers, and it's like his fingers are so bloody, it just squished into each of his fingers. It was like,
Ow. That's not good.
he was like, "Bloop bloop bloop bloop." I'm fine.
Okay.
Anyway, it was a different world back then. Very different world. You know, the first time I got in trouble and had to go to the office was in first grade. First grade. I mean, the principal didn't whip me or didn't do anything. But they'd have the school plays that were coming on. And so what they do the afternoon before the play was going to go that night, they'd do a dry run. And so they'd have all of kids on the stage, the seniors that were doing the play. And all the classes would be let out. We could go sit around. It was on the gym. And since I was in first grade, I was sitting right on the front row. I mean, just a little ways from the stage. And during the play, one part of the play, somebody on the play had made a note, a rubber band, and shot it across the stage to somebody on the other side. No. So I started, man, I was shooting all of them on the stage.
Wait, I'll be on the play.
Yeah, in the middle of the play, and all of a sudden the principal comes up and says, so I went. I don't even remember what he said or what he did. He didn't whip me. I remembered that. He probably just told me I shouldn't be doing that. I don't know what he did. But that was the first time I got in trouble.
When did you give up on school?
Hmm?
When did you give up on school?
Miss Richardson.
The one that slapped your hand so much?
Miss Richardson that pulled my hair out. 4th grade.
It's in the freezer too.
Miss Richardson had explained gravity, and I was fascinated with gravity. It was like magic. I mean, gravity is like some secret, invisible force that holds you to the earth. And so I went home to tell Uncle Howard. I was telling Uncle Howard about gravity. Uncle Howard had an 8th grade education. So I told him about gravity and this wonderful stuff it does. And he said, oh hell, there ain't no such thing as gravity. Gravity don't hold you ground. It's beans and taters that hold you to the ground. And I thought, well, it kind of makes sense, you know. So I went back and asked Miss Richardson to explain to me, so I could explain to Howard how gravity existed, so I could prove it. She couldn't do it. I didn't know, and she didn't know. To this day, gravity is still a theory. It's not been proven. It's works. Build everything they do, it seems like. But it's still a theory that she didn't know that. But after that, I guess I started wondering.
Go in there and look on the
Plus, I didn't want to do
table
homework
next to where I
anyway.
was
But
sitting.
that
and bring
mixed
me
with
my
I
glasses.
didn't
There should be a pair
I
of
didn't
glasses.
want to. I didn't know what can I trust her. Anything she tells me, what's real, what is true, and what's not. She couldn't even tell me. She couldn't prove to me gravity exists. What else is she telling me that she can't prove?
How old were you?
4th grade.
4th grade.
So it's like I lost
Yeah,
interest.
that's up in half.
And then I just hunted and fished, and
If you made above a C,
C was what that was my target. If I could make a C, then anything above a C was wasted time on my, is what I would think.
I've already measured out one.
I wish I hadn't done it that way.
although
You know where I would
you'd
sit
have had a
down
different
there?
life if you'd been a
There
good
should be a
student.
pair of scissors
Oh, you're right.
You think you got a Nobel Prize or just become normal?
laying on one of the tables. If you don't see them, don't worry about it.
Hey, Mamo, can you talk? Quit yelling. This is recorded. What was I was thinking about something. But so you give up on school, but you hadn't given up on encyclopedias.
No, I loved it. Mama bought Encyclopedia Britannica, a whole set of those things. And I love that because I'd go through and I would read about all kinds of stuff in that. I mean, I really liked that. And I remember one, probably, I don't know, 5th grade, 6th grade, whenever it was. For whatever reason, I got interested in rivers in Europe. And I couldn't name them now, but back then I was going into what the rivers were in different countries and stuff. I just got interested in it. I don't know. And I would watch a lot of history stuff on TV. That's another thing that educated me, because what I would pay attention to, I like the old war movies. So if it was Japan or Germany, in Germany, with the European theater, you had the French involved. And so I would listen at different words. Oh, that means whatever in French or in German or in Japanese, you know, and just that. And I just love, you know, the different generals and stuff and different battles. And I would pay attention to what they were. They were interesting to me. So that stuff, and then anything on the Civil War was interesting.
Tell
Kimiko?
the grandkids about the
And he,
stone box burials that you saw in the encyclopedia and how that all worked out. That's a good one. You know
All
this
right.
one? This one?
This is one of the oddest things, one of the weirdest things that happened
I can live without him.
in life for me. I was a poor student, almost flunking out of everything all the way through high school because I just didn't care. And I started finding arrowheads and got really interested in that. So I would go barefooted after rains, and I walked. No telling how many miles I walked through muddy fields looking for these things, collecting them. And then I started reading about them, and they're made different ways. They can be stemmed, they can be corner notched, they can have serrated edges, different shaped blades. And they had names. You know, there's Kirk Points and LaCroix and Sandia, Big Sandy, Clovis. There are all kinds of names for these things. So I was fascinated by the archaeology. So I read a whole bunch about it. And the one thing I was most interested in was the Nashville, Tennessee area, the Nashville Basin. Because unlike Native Americans, most places in the country, most burials, Indians would bury their dead laying on their side with their legs flexed up like they were curled into a position, like a fetal position. But the stone box people, the people in the Nashville area, they were called the stone box culture, buried their dead in stone crypts made out of natural limestone would break out in layers, and they'd dig an extended grave, but they'd lay their dead out kind of like we do, with the legs straight out, and the arms would be behind them. They all tend to have their arms behind them, and they'd bury them in these stone boxes or stone crypts. And the neat thing about that, when the first Europeans came into the Nashville Basin, they came into the Nashville Basin in the early 1700s, and they were looking for Native American groups that they could develop fur trade with. So the fur was a big industry back in the early 1700s, mid 1700s. So when they got to the Nashville Basin, they couldn't find any Indians who lived in the Nashville Basin, but what they found, there had been a tremendously large population that centered right on Nashville, on the Cumberland River and its tributaries. Literally, this enormous number of people. And what they found were villages with fort walls around them that were beginning, Indian villages that were beginning to decay. The houses inside were beginning to fall apart. And they just found one of these up the tributaries and all around. They found all bunches of these things. So what happened in the Nashville Basin, at some mysterious point in time, the Indians that lived there all left at one time. It's called the vacant quarter in archaeology. You know, they just left. So, you know, there's a big question as to what they were. So I read about all this stuff, and I can remember milking cows one afternoon, and I changed the milkers and put them on a cow. That would give me about 5 minutes or so before I had to change and put on another one. And I was outside back of the barn, just leaned up against the fence, daydreaming. And what I was daydreaming about, I was thinking, wouldn't it be neat to lead a bunch of archaeologists to excavate one of those stone box graves in Nashville to see if you could figure out why they left, you know? And I was daydreaming that. But then I thought, that's never going to happen for me, because one thing I'd read, since that was concentrated in the Nashville area, which was heavily farmed initially, and then built on, there's houses and buildings everywhere, that there are no more large cemeteries left. Nothing. They're all destroyed. So that's where I was with that. So I knew I couldn't do that because there are no more large cemeteries left. Second, I couldn't do that because I was flunking out of high school. how am I gonna get into, you'd have to have a college education to do that, you know? Now, that was leaning up, milking cows. Boom. Time passes. I'm working on my PhD. And I walked down the hallway. Walter Klippel was an archaeologist that had just been hired by the university. And he stopped me and he said he'd been looking for me and wanted to ask me a question. He said, I've been talking to your committee, and if you're interested in doing this, they're interested in letting you do this. He said they were doing in Nashville, just north of the capital, about 8 miles. They were putting roads or streets in. It was a low-income housing project that was being built. And he said they hit the edge of a cemetery. And there may be, he said, there may be 100 to 150 burials in that cemetery. That was estimated by the State Division of Archaeology. And that is a super large, that's a large cemetery. So all of a sudden, I'm so excited about it. He said, what he was asking me, if I would be a field supervisor over burial excavation.
Your dream.
My dream, what I daydreamed about. Will you be a field supervisor, have a bunch of archaeologists working under you, and conduct the excavation of all of the burials, the 100 to 150 burials? And then he said, and we'll pay you $10,000. Back then, that was a lot of money for a student. And man, he had me when he said stone box burials. I mean, I was in. We started that excavation. It was a fortified village dated to 1425 AD. Had a fort wall built around it. Had over 70 houses we found in there. You can see where the houses had been with hearths inside of them. And sometimes they would bury, if it was a child that probably had not been weaned and died, they would be buried just inside the wall of the house or just outside the wall of the house. But that one cemetery that was hip of the road, there were 2 other cemeteries in that site. So I'd called some of the archaeologists and they thought 150 is going to be too many. They don't think it'd be 150. They thought it'd be 100 that knew the area. Had those three cemeteries at Averbush, 887 burials. So all of a sudden, I had the super large, population.
One of the largest.
It's probably the largest in the southeast that was excavated in the 20th century.
That's a lot of dead people.
That's a whole lot. So I was the supervisor in recovery, lab supervisor in cleaning everything up, gluing skulls back together, doing all that stuff. And I did the analysis of all of it for my doctorate.
So how many people do you think lived in that, like how long have people inhabited that village that you discovered?
Oh, we had maybe 30 or 40 years, I'm thinking. It's been a long time since I got into those
I feel like
numbers.
some cemeteries around here don't have that many people.
Yeah.
And they've been around for a lot longer than 40 years.
And as Fort Wall, we found evidence that there was a lot of warfare going on. There's reason they were putting fort walls around those things. Had one guy that had been shot in the back of the neck, arrow, in the 7th cervical vertebra. You can see where what was left was just the tip of the arrow stuck in the bone. The arrow had broke off, so the stone's the tip. But you could see where it hit and little striations where it slid before it totally impacted right into the spinal cord, which means he was paralyzed. Boom, nothing worked from here down. He was down, looking at his ribs. He was stabbed multiple times in the back.
So he fell over.
And he was scalped. They turned his head. They started on this side of the initial cuts, scalped him. And there were about 5 or 6 people who'd been scalped
That's
there.
pretty rough.
You didn't
One
survive-
was a female.
You didn't survive that, right?
No. But there was at least 3 of them that survived the scalping for a period of time. 2 of them didn't survive, but probably a month or maybe
How do
6
you
weeks.
know? If it's hundreds of years ago, how do you know?
You
they
had the
survived
cut
scalping?
marks in the bone where they'd scalped, and just underneath the cut marks where the soft tissue had been, the skin and everything, you had a line where the infection had eroded little grooves in the bone. You can see where there's an infection laying right on top of there.
So
If you
when
died
they got
immediately,
scalped,
that
could
would-
everybody see
If
their
died
skull?
immediately, that wouldn't have happened. And if they'd lived a long time, what happens, if you take all this and cut the scalp away, there's a, like a periosteum or craniosteum that covers thin, like cellophane layer that covers the bone. There's like 5 different layers of tissue all the way down to that one. And that's the blood supply to the bone. So one of the guys we found had been scalped, survived probably months and months before he died, because this bone had begun to heal. And actually he may have lived years. The bone had begun to heal up there, but it was all messed up and everything, right? You could see just a line where he was missing his scalp.
It's like the outer layer of the skull started to die off, or?
Yeah, it dies. That out, you got a hard outer table, hard inner table, and spongy bone in between. The outer table dies and will slough off. But the Europeans, another great story.
This is an interesting next story. This next story is
David Hood in the 1700s was traveling from the lower fort to the upper fort in snow. There was a skiff of snow on the ground. It was in January, I think. There were no Indians that lived in the Nashville Basin, but there were Indian groups from outside that would hunt into the Nashville Basin, and there were Indian groups from the outside that would raid into the Nashville Basin, you know, to kill people and get whatever they had. People that would hunt into this area, Delaware Indians from Delaware, would come all the way into the Middle Tennessee area to hunt deer. Not for the meat, for the hides, because they were so concentrated where they lived. They'd wiped out most of the deer population, and the skins is what they used for clothing. So they would come in. So a lot of groups would come into the Nashville Basin for that. Well, David Hood was going from the lower fort to the upper fort. And David Hood, it was not his day, I'd say, because he accidentally walked into a group of Indians that were raiding into the area. And he was shot like 3 times. They stomped his neck to break his neck. And then one of them scalped him.
Oh,
And he's laying in the snow. Now, shot 3 times, that needs some explanation. Used to be a TV series, Daniel Boone. And old Daniel Boone, the actor on there, he'd hear gunshots, and he used to say, "That's Indian rifles." It's like, you know, an Indian rifle from a gunshot, but you could, because Indians, if they got rifles, were able to get them, they needed powder. So once they had powder, it's like, I may not get powder easily again, so they would light load their rifles. So you hear light loads. So the guy was shot 3 times, but it may not have penetrated real deep. But he was down, stomped his neck, scalped him, laid in the snow. Well, he was not dead. He was unconscious. So he came to, got up to make his way to the fort, the upper fort, still headed, walking hills and hollows, walked into that same group of Indians again. Not his day. He tried to run, they shot him, I think, 2 more times, just left him laying in the, he was shot like 5 times, scalped, stomped his neck. All right, he didn't make it to the fort, so he laid out all night. They sent a search party out looking for him the next day, and they found where he dragged himself under some brush, snow, ice, you know, cold weather. They picked him up, thinking he was dead. They took him to where he was in the upper fort. Thinking he was dead, they put him in an outhouse, a toilet, to wait till the ground thawed so they could bury him. Well, he came to again. He was not dead. So, like that Indian I mentioned that had the outer table that had been remodeled and everything, David Hood, they subjected a surgical operation they had for scalping back then. It goes all the way back to the Greek. And when they took this outer table off and that blood supply, what they would take is a shoemaker's awl, and they would drill holes in that hard outer table just into the spongy area. You wouldn't go down here, but just several holes, and they called it oozings. This was to allow the oozings to flow forth and cover the denuded skull. That's a quote. I'm pretty sure it's accurate from way back then.
I remember that quote from, yeah.
I remember that quote.
Yeah. That the oozings flow forth.
I've
Yep,
heard it so
they-
much I can still eat well. You tell me that.
Well, they did the pegging operation on David Hood, and it said he lived to be quite an old man. So he survived all that, lived for years after that.
Probably wasn't never as pretty again.
Well, never as pretty.
I bet he wore a hat.
I'll bet he wore a hat, because he probably looked pretty rough.
So, how did you survive your neck being broken?
They didn't
Well,
say
they
he
didn't
broke the
stomp
neck. They
Oh.
stomped it to break his neck, but apparently didn't.
And then, when you're scalped, is your skull just showing when you're walking around? If
Yeah.
you survive?
Yeah,
That's pretty rough.
Now, skin eventually, I guess, grows back over.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
It's
what that
not the
oozing is
same.
for.
yeah, that's, yeah.
But it's
That's
not the dermis.
oozing is granulation tissue that allows blood supply to reestablish.
And so eventually, a long time
Oh,
later, the
yeah.
skin.
Yeah, and you look
It'd be
right.
so hard to just like leave your
I
head
suspect
alone.
it's runny and nasty for the years.
Yeah.
I love when the stove and look.
Skunk is spray. Smell it?
I do smell it.
It's either a skunk or it's a skunk. Really stinky bug.
No,
Snake
that's a,
bug, or a
ooh,
tooth.
that is a skunk.
No, that's a skunk.
Well,
I'm glad that the cookies are baking. Bye, Daddy Bear.